Hey, Rainy Joe here, and this is 1001 Reviews, the series where I plan on reviewing every single album from the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book. And today we are looking at Justice's 2007 album, Cross. According to the book, Justice released Cross in 2007 underneath the Ed Banger Records label, produced by Gaspard Ogg with Xavier de Rosnay, art direction, So Me, nationality, France, with a running time of 48 minutes and 15 seconds. So I was not aware of Justice before listening to this album and really had no idea what to expect going into this thing. I've seen the album cover many times online in different communities, but had no idea what to expect from this and really didn't know even what genre it was. So when I played this album, it was instantly made clear to me that this was an electronic album, something I really did not expect from the album cover. More specifically, this is electro house and French house music. Now, personally, I am not that well versed in house music at all. I have not really delved much into the genre whatsoever. Perhaps that's because it is sort of meshed together at this point, and I think club bangers and club music in general has sort of turned it into sort of a stereotype kind of genre where it's almost overblown and people just have one kind of version of it, sort of like how people might view something like country. But really, this album really proved that wrong greatly for me and showed me that house music and electronic music in general is far more than just a mesh of sounds that has almost no other purpose than to be dance music. Not that this isn't great dance music, but it feels like it is a lot more than that and really does make a pretty pivotal statement within the genre. By the end of this thing, I was left both amazed and awestruck by what I have heard and really listened to this album at least 10 more times throughout the week. I think one of the best ways to even describe this album in general is that it's sort of like Daft Punk on crack. So you take the essence of Daft Punk and really turn it up times 10, and that's really what I feel like you get on something like this record right here. Because throughout its 50-minute runtime, it is really never ever boring. It is constantly just lambasting all this sound at you in just so much visceral passion. It is repetitive at some points, sure, but it is never ever boring throughout its 50-minute runtime, which is far more important than the fact that it is repetitive, because great dance music is often repetitive in some degree. The opening track, Genesis, really just sets the stage of what's to come on this album, as it is extremely raw and visceral production-wise. The samples used here are just effortlessly spliced together in such a seamless way, and it is so well crafted and so well put together that is really just breathtaking. And the amount of groove that is put into the song is able to get anybody moving, and I think into it, because it is just so much ear candy in a way. And the way this song ends, it seamlessly enters into the next song, Let There Be Light, which continues and carries on the energy from the first one in such a fantastic degree, but this time adding more onto it. And this song really does pick up the pace this time around, and the speed really matches the funkiness of the beat. The third track, D.A.N.C.E, or Dance as it is abbreviated to, is one of the most iconic tracks off of this album. And if there is one song that you've heard from this album, it would have been this one most likely, as this song has been sampled by many other artists, including the likes of Logic and Watsky, the second of which I am a huge fan of. But it's interesting to me because even though this song has been sampled quite a bit by other artists, this song also heavily samples Michael Jackson's work, as the French duo that makes up Justice are huge Michael Jackson fans at their core. The song manages to sample Michael Jackson's Pretty Young Thing, Black or White, Working Day or Night, Whatever Happens, and the Jackson 5's ABCs song. This song is just a very passionate and energy-induced tribute track to the King of Pop himself, and is just a fantastic song to really get into and pull you in to the energy of the album here. But speaking of sampling on this album, Michael Jackson is not the only artist that is heavily sampled throughout this thing, because obviously this being an electronic house album, there is going to be quite a bit of sampling, and Justice here really do take advantage of artists such as Michael Jackson, Britney Spears, 50 Cent, and even Apple ringtones. Another highlight of this album is the two-parter song Phantom 1 and Phantom Part 2, which are some of the more interesting aspects of the album as the genre begins to shift a little bit and implement more sounds to its style and really takes it into a bit of a different direction that you've heard so far. Phantom 1 feels sort of glitchy and almost industrial in some segments, getting a bit noisier, I would say. And on top of that, it also implements some bass playing that is sort of riffy and kind of comes in and out of play throughout the song Phantom 1. And this implement of different sounds is a really fantastic thing to have, as variety is what makes some of this album so great, as it never feels like it goes stale throughout its whole runtime, but rather continues to add onto its flourishing style. Part 1 of Phantom obviously seamlessly goes right into Part 2 of Phantom, which to me, I'm not sure if Part 1 and Part 2 really needed to be split up, and maybe they are just doing this to break up what would be a very long song. But even still, Phantom 2 is one of my favorite songs on the album because of the amount of almost string-like arrangements that are in this song. The very violent strings that are in this song are extremely glitchy and industrial sounding in a way that is just extremely pleasing to the ear. It's almost like a computer choir of sorts. Right after this, it moves on to a much simpler and shorter track than what has been making up most of this album, and that is the song Valentine. And I think this shorter and almost slower break in the album makes for a nice calm before the storm-like effect, which is the next few songs. One of the things I like about Valentine, though, is even though I don't have too much to say about it, the production is a bit different from the rest of the album, as it does do a lot more panning of certain sound effects in a way that it feels like everything is just all around you in different areas of the room. We then get two vocal tracks right back to back, those being The Party and DVNO, the former being something that I really like and the latter not being as much as an interest to me. Because the female vocalist in the song The Party really brings a lot to the genre here and really sounds great and in her element. It doesn't feel off-putting, and her voice is charming and just full of almost snideness to her voice. She almost sounds sarcastic in some of the ways she sings in the song. And I think the fact that she meshes so well with the song here is really the greatest strength about this track. But like I said, I can't say the same for DVNO, which is a male singer who comes into play, and I find his performance to be overall really boring and lacking. Because as he sings alongside the beat is still great, but his voice feels like he just really isn't giving that much of a personality-filled performance, I guess I would say. It's almost like he was forced to do this song and he really didn't want to, and most of it just feels like it is just lacking. This is definitely the weakest song for me on the entire album, and it is due to his voice. I do find it to just be overall unenjoyable and kind of boring, but the beat and the production is just as fantastic as it's always been on this entire record so far. Then there's the song Stress, which is just appropriately named overall because it does feel like a kind of stressful track. It's constantly building up to something, and it feels as if this entire song I am being chased by something or someone, and I am just trying my best to claw away and escape from its grasp. This is especially true when about halfway through the song, an alarm effect comes into play and really adds to the stress factors that are being implemented here. And I really love every moment of this song, and it does feel almost darker in tone from the rest of the dance tracks on this album. And speaking of dark tracks, the next song I would also argue feels sort of darker as well, which is the song Waters of Nazareth. And this song is bordering on the noise influences that I've mentioned, because here it gets much more glitchy. The noise elements feel a bit more turned up to the point where it's almost bass boosted in a way, which to me is a great thing because I do love noise music, and I think noise, when done properly, can really be just a marvelous thing to listen to. It takes a certain level of skill and artistic ability to pull off these kinds of sounds, and I think it's done quite well here, as it never feels overbearing or in a way that is just too drawn out for no reason whatsoever. All of it is very carefully placed alongside the electronics of the song, and also alongside the steady drum beat and cymbals that also play throughout this entire song. And then finally we have the last track, which I don't have too much to say about, other than it really just continues to do more of the same that this album has done, and does close off the album in a spectacular way, as it is still just as consistent as this whole album, which is overall a very, very consistent and genre-defining album in its overall view, I would say. And even though I'm not a huge House fan, this left a mark on me and is definitely, to me, going to be my favorite House album until I've been proven otherwise. If someone said to me, what's your favorite electronic album? What's your favorite house album? What's your favorite dance album? I would say Cross by Justice, because there really is very few moments on here where you just won't be moved or just brought into the overall sound. So overall, it gets a soft rating of 9.4 out of 10, and I will harden that up to a 9.5 out of 10. And of course, with me loving this thing so much and feeling like it is so important to the genre, I'm going to go ahead and give this an E for essential. Go ahead and listen to this one. It is definitely worth the listen and deserves a place in the 1001 albums to listen to before you die book. Anyways, that pretty much does it for this video. Let's go ahead and see what the next album you're going to listen to is in the 1001 albums to listen to before you die book. All right, random number generator, 1 to 1001. Generate. 263 is the next album, which is 263 being one we already did. So that's Paul Simon. We're not doing that one. We already did that one. So let's try again. Generate. 900 is the next one. Clean, right on the dot, 900, which is Lost Souls by Dove. So go ahead and give Lost Souls by Dove a listen, and I will review that in exactly 1 week from now. Anyways, if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe if you want to join me on listening to every single album from the 1001 albums to listen to before you die book. And of course, as always, my name is Randy Joe, signing off.